Good afternoon. I am Madhu Madhavan of San Diego Indian American Society. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this 32nd annual Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Lecture and Award Ceremony. Before we start the program, we will observe 1 minute silence in memory of and respect for former President of India, Abdul Kalam, who passed away this week. Let us begin now. Thank you. We are very fortunate to have with us a very great academician and the Chancellor of this great university, Dr. Pradeep Khosla, as our chief guest. Thank you very much, Chancellor Khosla, for accepting our invitation in spite of the many duties you have. But you are very happy now that UCSD won the case against USC, and now, of course, it's out of your mind, so you've got plenty of time to do something about it. At the same time, you may be thinking about how you can coax the UCSD alumni to give more money so that you can compete with the USC alumni. So these are the things that you'll be thinking about. And thank you again. Please join me in welcoming Chancellor. Oh, I have got to say, I've got too many things to say today. And the San Diego Indian American Society has come a long way, but we still have to travel many more miles to come. We have done fairly well compared to where we started 32 years ago. At that time, we honored only about 10 students. Now we honor anywhere between 20 to 25 students. At that time, we gave awards totaling only about, cash awards totaling only about 9,000. Now it's about 45,000. So, and in all these years, we started out with only about $25,000 as a trust fund. Today, we have got $525,000 in the trust, thanks to all of you who have given generously for the program, without which we could not honor 600 outstanding high school graduate students in San Diego County. And all these people have done exceedingly well, and you will see how well they have done very soon. And this year, we'll be honoring 21 students, and they will be provided with a lot of certificates. Normally, we used to give certificate only from a congressman. And this year, we are giving certificate from 5 different congressmen. And besides that, we are also giving certificates from the Speaker of the California State Assembly and 2 senators from California State, Marty Block and Joel Anderson. And then we also give a certificate from Lorena Gonzalez. So this time, these people are going to carry 5 such certificates, very useful one, very nice to carry it through. And so thank you very much, all these people who have given this money, the certificates, and I really appreciate that. Many of the representatives of this council, congressmen and the council people are here. This year is the kind of a historic event. In a sense, this is the first time we are going to have a son of a 1985 recipient receiving the award. We have had many brothers, sisters, or brother and sister in the same family receiving the award. This is the first time Hello Baniadam and his father, V. Baniadam, gets the award. They are sitting there in the front here. Hello, and be it can be anything. 1985 and 1950. Besides this activity, we also have other important activities. One of them is called Diwali Festival of Lights. That will be in the month of October. This year, it will be on October 17th, 2015 in Balboa Park. You are all invited to come for the program. And of all these things, we do whatever we can to create a greater awareness about India in San Diego. And we do all the best. And many of you have supported our activities over the years. At this time, I would like to take the opportunity to thank all those donors who have been supporting us. Many of them are present here. I want you to join me in thanking all of these people for what they have done. And now I have had great pleasure to introduce our president, Dr. Inder Verma. Dr. Inder Verma is known to the scientific community throughout the world. I mean, he doesn't need an introduction for them. And he is an American Cancer Institute professor of cell in Salk Institute, and is also a recipient of many awards, including the Institute, well, let me read out properly, including National Academy of Sciences, March of Dimes Birth Defects Foundation Franklin D. Roosevelt Investigator Award, and National Academy of Medicine and President, American Society for Gene Therapy. Please join me in welcoming Inder.
Thank you, Madhavan. As you know, he is the real president. I do what he tells me to do. And this is what everybody knows that. I also like to first take this opportunity to welcome you all to this marvelous activity that this organization does. You know, it really is a pleasure to every year see so many young people, and I think it's a fantastic thing that goes on. So again, congratulations to the organizers also. And of course, it's also a pleasure because this also is connected with the Mahatma Gandhi lecture, which is, again, we had the honor and the privilege very often to invite some outstanding people. And there's no exception today that we have actually Pradeep Khosla, who is the Chancellor of the UCSD campus, which is one of the largest campuses, over 30,000 students. It's one of the top 10 universities in the world, and they have probably most renowned scientists, artists, and nearly one of the largest funding of the National Academy of the NIH. So it really is a great honor to have an institution like UCSD in San Diego, because not only it's one of the largest providers of some sort of help and finances to the county, it actually produces one of the finest intellect in the country. So it's really quite marvelous that you are the chancellor of this place. Now, I should say, though, here I'm introducing you as the chancellor, but in India I would have introduced him as the vice chancellor, because nobody pays attention to the chancellor, but it's quite different over here. Now, just a little bit of a background. Pradeep grew up in India, did his early studies at IIT Kharagpur, and from there on he went to Pittsburgh. And I think the rest of his scientific career, his engineering career, his teaching career really was pretty much at the Carnegie Mellon Institute in Pittsburgh, where he eventually became the dean and a very distinguished professor. Of course, then he saw the light. He got tired of cleaning the snow, probably. And eventually we were delighted that somehow or the other we managed to bring him to UCSD. And it really is remarkable how quickly he had so much influence in the community, in the scientific community, to provide leadership. Despite the fact we have terrific scientists, they still needed a certain vision to bring them together. I think Pradeep thinks if you have money, you can bring many people together. So I think that has worked well for him. He is, of course, a terrific engineer. He has published numerous papers, books. And finally, my own relationship with Pradeep is a little bit more deepened in the fact that even though I live in La Jolla, I don't get to see him as often, but we do see once each other in India, where we both are part of the Infosys Prize. He chairs the jury for the Engineering Prize, and I chair the jury for the Life Sciences Prize. So at least we get to see once a year. And that's where I get to see what a fun guy he is. He has good jokes. And if you get a little bit of red wine in the evening, it gets even better. So with that, let's have the privilege and pleasure of having Pradeep to give us the 32nd Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Lecture. Pradeep.
Thank you, Madhu, and thank you, Inder. Those are really kind words. Not true, but kind nonetheless, because this part about wine is not true. It's actually a great honor to be here today, and let me just say thank you to the San Diego Indian American Society for allowing me to speak tonight. It's very difficult to say that you're going to give the 32nd Mahatma Gandhi lecture. I mean, this man was such an amazing man that I think I can only share some thoughts that I have with you, and some thoughts that have been influenced by his thoughts and the way he thought about life and the way he changed the world. And I'll do it in the context of education, because that's the only thing I know. I'm not good at anything else. I have no hobbies. I have no friends. I work all the time. I don't drink wine, in there, in case you didn't know. Anyway, so this society has done a great job in furthering relations and connections between India and the US, and particularly in the areas of education, research, and innovation, and especially in the context of this current government and the current political climate, where there's a lot of focus on education. And I was literally in the Bay Area last week talking about the next visit of the Prime Minister, which, by the way, is going to be September. I should not say the dates. Maybe they told me not to say, but I'll tell you. September 26 and 27. He's going to be in the Bay Area, and it's going to be aimed at innovation and the high-tech Indian community out there and how they can help the Indian diaspora and the Indians back home. Okay, so this lecture, as you all know, has been given by people much more accomplished, much more famous, much more intelligent than I am. So people like Jonas Salk in '84, Roger Revelle, the founder of UC San Diego, Herb York, the first chancellor, and so here I am, and I'm not even counting everybody else who has given this lecture. And at some point I was trying to figure out, what did they say? Like in 32 lectures, I think you could have picked up just about everything Mahatma Gandhi was known for and said the same thing like 5 times over. And I was trying to figure out, what did they say? What should I say? Now, you guys don't have those lectures on the web. You guys should put the lectures on the web. You do have lectures on the web? I didn't see them. Yeah, otherwise my life would have been easier. Anyway, so the real chief guest today, so I know Madhu said I'm the chief guest. The real chief guest today are these 21 young men and women, and we should give them a big hand. If you just look at, congratulations. You are the reason why we are here, and you are the reason I get to give a talk here. But you are really the reason that we should all be focusing on the future of this world, and I'll share some thoughts about the future of this world and the future of education. So every one of you has demonstrated a keen sense of writing, I'm told. You all wrote an essay, and I hope you wrote it on your own and you didn't copy from the web. Now, I'm not kidding you. It's serious, right? Because when people go to college, they usually think that copying from the web is not copying because it's public knowledge. But anyway, so I know you wrote a great essay. I know one of you will read the essay, and I'm looking forward to it. So let me start talking a little bit about the principles of Mahatma Gandhi and how they were formed. And I think his principles were formed, and this is just a guess now, at a very early age. And over the years, I think he refined, and he developed them more and more. And after I talk a little bit about that, I'm going to talk about his views on education and how they were shaped by what he saw and the lessons he had learned. And then finally, being the chancellor, I won't get paid if I don't tell you how great UC San Diego is. But I think I'll try to make a connection between what Mahatma Gandhi thought about the role of education and the goal of education and the role of public university in this day and age, and especially in California, and especially the UC system, which I think is not one of the best. It's like the best public university system in the world. Okay, so if you don't know what Mahatma Gandhi means, it's, I think, a combination of two words. Mahan Atma means great soul, and Gandhi was his name. And he was born as Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, which was his given name. And he was, I think there's no doubt in anybody's mind, there's quite deserving of the title of Mahatma, and his name basically became Mahatma Gandhi. Now, even though people called him Mahatma, it would come as a surprise to you that if you were his friend in his youth, you would have realized that he didn't demonstrate any leadership qualities. He did not demonstrate much intellectual qualities. And in fact, he was described by his teachers as a mediocre student at best. In fact, one of his reports, and this is called the terminal report. So in India, when you go to high school or grade school, you get a terminal report. That's the end of the year report, right? So it basically read that he was good at English, fair in arithmetic, and weak in geography. His conduct, they said, was very good, and his handwriting was bad. So that was his mediocre. That was his report, and as I said, he was a mediocre student. And this should give hope to many of us, because I can imagine that many of us were not great students, but somehow if you work hard at life, you end up at the right place. Okay, so it should also be noted that even though he wasn't the best student, he was very self-aware. He knew who he was, he knew what he wanted, and he was more enlightened than most kids. He loved to read, he loved to educate himself, and he paid attention to just about everything he learned in school. And that's what kind of surprised me when I said he was not good, when his report was not that good. Maybe he was just not good at taking tests. So according to his autobiography, there was one time when he had trouble spelling at school, and the teacher basically said, hey, don't worry about it, just look at the slate. The slate is this little stone tablet that you write with chalk on, of your neighbor, and he basically refused to cheat. And even though the teacher yelled at him, he knew he had taken the right and a moral path. And this actually is pretty amazing for a young kid. And I don't know how old he was, maybe like 12 or 13, for him to have been so self-enlightened and so self-aware of the difference between right and wrong. And I think you can see that his ideas were forming when he was very young, and he grew up with very strong views on these ideas. So he does okay at school. At age 19, he goes to study law in London. And then he went on to accept a position with an Indian law firm that sent him to its office in South Africa. And this is where the true development happens. This is where he truly developed his political views. This is where he developed his sense of ethics. This is where he developed his leadership skills. And this is where he developed the notion of being a peaceful activist. And he did this because this is where he saw massive discrimination in ways that he had never seen before. And this is where he realized that people of color were not treated well. And he experienced it not just in terms of looking at what other people were experiencing, but also he himself experienced it. And this had a tremendous effect on him. And he writes in his autobiography that it really came home to roost when one day he was traveling in a train and he had his first class ticket, and I think everybody knows this story, and he was basically not allowed to sit in his assigned seat. He, of course, protested, and he was allowed the first class car the next day. And one can see the parallels between what he did and what happened in this country in terms of African American people and how the protest started there. It started as somebody not allowed to sit in the front of the bus. And now I don't know if that person, if she was influenced by him, but I can see that fundamentally trying to question trying to question somebody else's deeds and basically invoke your own rights is a way to start pushing the rest of the world to think about what is right and what is wrong. So his experiences made him question his role in society and his people's standing in the British Empire. So this is the time when they said the sun never set on the British Empire. This is the time the British had just about every country around the world. The British were in charge or were colonizing just about every country in the world. So now Gandhi himself was born in an upper caste. And it is amazing that he never quite talked about it, and he always was a great fan of what in India at that time were called the lower caste. And he was a great fan, and he was a great supporter of equality and social justice. And this, at least I found, to be very enlightening, especially for a person in those times who was born in an upper caste, because you took your privilege for granted, and you never quite gave up your privilege for helping somebody else. But this is but Gandhi was quite the opposite. So he extends his stay in South Africa to help Indians who oppose the bill. And basically he's fighting for the Indians who want to oppose a bill that would deny them the right to vote. He founds this Indian Congress called the Natal Indian Congress to unite the Indian community, and then starts his fight for independence from the British rule. And this starts in South Africa. And he did all of this, and he does all of this while adhering to the principles that he learned throughout his early childhood and early adulthood, especially the principles of nonviolence, peaceful resistance, truth, faith, and spiritual and practical purity. And he once said, love is the most subtle of all forces. And then, so that was a principle he believed in, that love could conquer just about everything. And the second thing he believed in was in the virtue and in the power of education. So which brings me to his thoughts on what he thought about education. So he recognized the importance of learning and enlightenment and once said, live as if you were to die tomorrow and learn as if you were to live forever. And he was not a fan of so-called Western education, and particularly English education. He objected to what he thought of as materialistic values of modern civilization and education. And he said, quotes, the real difficulty is that people have no idea of what education truly is. We assess the value of education in the same manner as we assess the value of land or of shares in the stock market. We want to provide only such education as would enable the student to earn more. We hardly give any thought to the improvement of the character of the educated. The girls, we say, do not have to earn, so why should they be educated? And as long as such ideas persist, there is no hope of ever knowing the true value of education. This is actually a very interesting statement. So if you think about what he was saying then, we have literally come 360 degrees. The current debate in higher education community is exactly about the value of education. And people are arguing if a general education at a great university like UC San Diego or Berkeley or LA or one of these places over 4 years is really worth it. If, let's say, you were to do a BA in English or a BA in sociology. Our politicians are arguing the value of research in social sciences and in the arts. And you can see that this man, more than 100 years ago, was questioning that thought process. And he won that battle. He was able to convince people. And now we are back to where we started. And this is where history, I think, is a great example. So if we ever have a chance, we should always be thinking about broad-based education. I'll come back to that in the context of UC San Diego. So he favored a curriculum of what he called basic education, which included the teaching of handicrafts, such as weaving, pottery, and leatherwork. Now remember, this is back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. These were skills that were previously reserved for the lowest stratum of Indian society. But Gandhi saw the handicrafts as an equalizer. They would provide everyone with the opportunity to earn a living wage, and they would grant freedom. He also saw the handicrafts as a way to develop intelligent thinking. He gave the example of a child who learns to use the spinning wheel. He said, when you explain the reason for each process employed, you also explain the mechanism of the wheel, the history of cotton, and its connection to civilization. And I think he was ahead of his time. He was ahead of the curve in describing the importance of experiential learning or hands-on learning and multidisciplinary training as opposed to rote-based learning, which was pretty much the basis of education in India at that time, which also was the basis of education in England at that time. So he wanted to change the value of education. He wanted to impart the whole education of the body, mind, and soul through handicrafts, to equalize professions so that manual work was seen just as important as intellectual work, and to ensure that everyone at all stratums of society received the opportunity to obtain an education. As he said, education should be so revolutionized as to answer the wants of the poorest villager instead of answering those of an imperial exploiter. So you can see how his thinking is being formed and how he's using his thoughts to influence education and people around him. By giving everyone an opportunity to basic education, a society promotes individual and communal self-sufficiency, which he wholeheartedly supported, which is why I think if he were alive today, he would be a very strong supporter of the public education system in this country, and especially the UC system in California. If you look at the history of public education system in this country, it was formed on the basis of some of these ideas. So you take UC San Diego as an example. We are a public institution. We are part of the great UC system. And that means we exist to serve the citizens of our community, the citizens of our state, and if I may say, the people of the whole world, basically. We also serve our nation and world through our mission of education, research, patient care, and service. And let me just give you a few examples. So one of our priorities right now is to offer opportunity for every educated young man and woman to be able to come to UC San Diego and have access to this great education. Coming to UC San Diego even if you were to have, let's say, if you paid no tuition, you would have to spend about $20,000 to $25,000, let's say about $20,000 a year, just for living, living in a dorm, living outside. In a country where the median income of this country is $50,000, the median income in California is $45,000. If you made $45,000 and you had one child going to any UC and you had to pay $20,000 after tax, I guarantee you could not afford it. And that is a very significant issue. So one of our goals is to create that access, and one of my goals, and since I've been here, is to really build, and Inder joked about raising money from alumni. It's not a joke. Actually, it is our goal to raise resources so that every young man or woman in San Diego, in California, and if I may be so bold to say in the country, should have the access to come to UC San Diego or places like this where they would get a great education. So, since I've been here, this is my third year. By the way, today, as soon as I'm done, I'm already done. 5 o'clock is over, right? So I finished literally 3 years. Tomorrow morning, I start my first day of my 4th year out here. Anyway, thank you. No. You should not be clapping. I mean, I don't know. That's not an accomplishment. It actually was a joy to be here. So 2 years ago, we created this scholarship called the Chancellor's Associate Scholarships. And the whole idea was, if you were admitted to UC San Diego and you had what is called EFC, an expected family contribution of 0. When you do the financial aid and you have an expected family contribution of 0, which basically is code for you'll have to borrow $10,000 a year to go to school out here. That's called self-help. I said that will be 0 going forward for people in UC, from people in the San Diego region, and we picked 3 high schools at that time, Gompers, Lincoln, and Preuss. This year, we have more than 200 students on campus who are getting these Chancellor's Associate Scholarships. And we have expanded the program to 150 students a year. And we have several high schools, several community colleges, and several programs around our community out here to make sure that we, as a public university in San Diego, are making a commitment to our own sons and daughters right here in this region. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you. And it's no different than these young men and women who are getting these scholarships, and you as a community are also helping. So I think Gandhi would have supported our efforts to ensure that students from all socioeconomic backgrounds get access to education. Second, our goal is to provide all of our students with a well-rounded education, to teach them to use their left brain and their right brain in a holistic manner so that they can work across multiple disciplines and solve problems of societal interest. In fact, that's our vision, that's our mission. So this is important because every problem in the world today, whether it be global warming, whether it be hunger, whether it be water, which is a problem we are facing right now in California, whether it be disease, is all a complex problem that involves science, technology, social sciences, humanities, and every policy all to interact in a very holistic manner to move humanity forward. And these are challenges that are not solved by any single individual. These are challenges that are solved by multiple individuals, teams from multidisciplinary teams. And we need our next generation leaders to be capable of delivering this type of expertise, listening to other people's perspective, and working together to formulate solutions. So that's 21 young men and women sitting out here. I hope you're listening. If you forget everything else, don't forget this statement. When you get educated, when you go to school, don't focus on just your major. Focus on getting a very broad-based education that is really going to develop both sides of your mind. Okay, so at UC San Diego, we practice what we preach. We have oceanographers who are working with pharmacists. We have oceanographers who are working with physicians, biologists, and engineers to pioneer new drugs from the sea. We have new sources of antibiotics and other medicines. We have neuroscientists working with doctors, physical scientists, and engineers to map the human brain, which will give us a better understanding of the brain and which will have great implications in our efforts to diagnose neurodisorders and neurodiseases. We use a wide variety of skills and expertise for the good of our society and world. which is exactly what Gandhi was talking about, Mahatma Gandhi was talking about, which is what he had in mind when he was promoting the basic education through the handicrafts. And through a skilled and diversely educated community, people can both support themselves individually and also use their talents to collaborate and solve problems and contribute to the communal good. So, as a united team at UC San Diego, we are working to make our society better and the world a better place. And we are imparting our skills to our students so that they have a responsibility to use their education to make their communities and their world a better place, as well as pursue successful and rewarding careers. And today's public universities, and especially UC San Diego, instills the importance of social mobility and social responsibility. And I think Mahatma Gandhi would be pleased with our mission, with our work, and our achievements. Very few people have had as much influence on our world as Mahatma Gandhi, or have tackled as grand issues as Mahatma Gandhi on so many fronts and have had so much impact on our society. He's inspired billions of people. He changed centuries of old prejudices. He taught us that the key to happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. And this is actually a very deep statement. If you just take some time to reflect on this, it's actually amazing that if you were to follow such simple principles, one could actually lead a happier life and have no stress. So there is no question that his legacy is just as strong today as it was a century ago, and it will be stronger, as strong in a century as it is today. His principle lives in each one of us, and we must continue to educate future generations about his life story, his achievements, and his leadership. And I want to finish by telling you what Martin Luther King, another great soul, once said. He said, "If humanity is to progress, Gandhi is inescapable. He lived, thought, and acted inspired by the vision of humanity evolving towards a goal of peace and harmony. We may ignore him at our own risk." So thank you very much, and good night.
So I'm going to call on the students who are the recipients of the Mahatma Gandhi Scholars Scholarship Award first. So please come up to the stage. Anjana Srinivas from Scripps Ranch High. Anjana? Not here.
Actually, he's in India, I think, yeah. Okay. His father was supposed to come. He didn't.
Yashes Srinivasan. Keshav Tadimeti. Canyon Crest. Please. So after the first five, we'll figure out the routine. Lena, Nicole, Antoine, who's going to UCSD, UC San Diego. All right, we got it down now. Kahlo, Baniadam, San Dieguito Academy. Celine, Calpo.
Congratulations. Here, look at this.
Emily Davies. First stop, our Chancellor, and then our President, Ben Friedl. David Mendoza. Chancellor, camera. We missed that, huh? Nikhil Palanki. An Dao Tong, also going to UC San Diego. I'm being selective in recognizing the ones going to UC San Diego. I guess not. Eric Whitney. And finally, Carolyn Callan. Congratulations. So the next segment is the presentation of the AVID Scholars, and Hema Lal will. Eric Whitney. Oh. You came up, right? You got yours. In case you find that you have the check that belongs to the different person, we can sort it out for you at the end.
We're ready? Okay. So on behalf of the AVID Scholars Selection Committee, it gives me great pleasure to announce the winners of the AVID Scholars. I'm going to start with the quote from Jacqueline Canseco Garcia, our first recipient. People say that the United States is a place of dreams. I say it's a place where we have the capacity to turn those dreams into reality, but only if we have the determination and strength to do so. So this is Jacqueline Canseco Garcia, a graduate of Mission Hills High, and she'll be attending UC San Diego in the fall. Congratulations. Good job. Mm-hmm. Jacqueline Meza Tapia, who graduated from San Isidro High School, is going to Stanford University in the fall to study biology. Congratulations. Good job. Christina Mansour, a graduate of El Cajon Valley High, will be attending San Diego State in the fall to study engineering. Congratulations. Thank you. Tiffany McLemore, a Santana High School alum, will be going to UC Santa Barbara to study biology. Tiffany make it? Okay, we'll find Tiffany. She's studying, I hope. Okay. Rosalinda Perez, a graduate of San Pascal High, is going to be attending Cal State. She's going to study mechanical engineering. Congratulations. Geraldo Martinez is our Oceanside High grad, and he's going to be attending UC San Diego in the fall. Congratulations, Geraldo. Next, we have Empress Elaton. She's a Hoover High School alum, and she's going to be attending UCSD. Congratulations. Last but not least, Araceli Zeraferino, a Kearney Mesa High School grad, is going to be going to San Diego State in the fall.
Mother, maybe you should join them on the stage. It's a time-honored Indian tradition to have guests up on the stage. So a pleasure to invite Kahlo Baniadam, as was mentioned, to read his essay on nonviolence. Every one of the candidates, every one of the recipients did, but we selected him to read his essay.
Hi, everyone. Okay, this is my essay on nonviolence. My father, Behzad Baniadam, attended and graduated from San Diego High School in Encinitas, California. He was among the first recipients of the San Diego Indian American Society's Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Scholarship upon graduation in June of 1985. His accomplishments and my interest and support of Gandhi's views on nonviolent means of conflict resolution have inspired me to apply for the scholarship. On a cool January evening in 1995, a 20-year-old young man delivering pizza in San Diego, Tariq Kamisa, was shot by a 14-year-old named Tony Hicks. Tony was ordered to shoot the pizza delivery man by an adult gang member. This heartbreaking crime is the type that causes families to fall apart, neighbors to fear, and the community to pass judgment. But in this case, the father of Tariq Kamisa decided to embody the unique human virtue of forbearance. Forbearance is a behavior that is rarely spoken of these days. It is the quality of not allowing adverse situations to violate well-being. Forbearance is having gentleness, patience, and mind over emotions. Azim Kamisa, Tariq's distraught father, came to terms with the tragic loss of his son through charity. He formed a friendship with Tony Hicks' grandfather and caretaker, Ples Felix. Azim Kamisa stated, "In my faith, on the 40th day after a death, you are encouraged to channel your grief into good, compassionate deeds, deeds which provide high-octane fuel for the soul's forward journey. 40 days is not a long time to grieve for a child, but one of my motivations for starting the Tariq Kamisa Foundation was to create spiritual currency for my son, as well as to give myself a sense of purpose." In 1995, Azim formed the Tariq Kamisa Foundation, TKF, which was dedicated to stop kids from killing other kids. Ples Felix joined with him to educate youth on alternatives to violence. The organization began by giving violence prevention talks at schools. They focused on educating children about violence and how actions have consequences. They taught ways to make nonviolent choices, how forgiveness is better than revenge thinking, how all people deserve to be loved and treated well, and finally, that care, friendship, love, and unity are possible even from conflict. They have since reached 500,000 youth and educated them on nonviolence. 72% of these kids have had a significant increase in school attendance after being mentored by the foundation. In addition to this, of the children they have had in their program from San Diego Unified School District, TKF has reduced referrals and suspensions by 65%. These statistics prove just how much a few people can make a difference for nonviolence in the world. Historically, humans had interest in the development of ethics and character. Aristotle was the first to discuss ethics in real ways by teaching people how to lead better lives by being good. Named after his son, the Nicomacheia are his writings on ethics, where he lays out the steps necessary to learn ethical behavior, which would in turn lead to a happy life. His ethical plan begins with the student having a teacher who helps the child develop these actions, and then they turn into habits. Schools are the gateway into improving young lives. Through them, students can be reached and lives changed with education and emotion. Mahatma Gandhi was a pivotal figure in the history of humanity. In the face of great adversity and occupation of his country by foreign powers, Gandhi brought forth the notion of nonviolence as an effective means to peacefully resolve strife. By educating and uniting people in the notion of philosophy of nonviolence, he helped achieve independence for his country and has been an inspiration for generations. He is revered by all nations, and his place in history is solidified as an example for all. People like Azim Khamisa embody the spirit of Gandhi's teachings. The mission towards nonviolence is embodied by Elie Wiesel, who said, "Mankind must remember that peace is not God's gift to his creatures. Peace is our gift to each other. The human race must work together towards a goal of peace." Thank you.
So, as we get ready to wrap up this part of the program, as I was listening to our Chancellor Pradeep Khosla wonder aloud, rhetorically perhaps, what might he have to add on the 32nd occasion of the Gandhi Scholarship Awards. I was listening to him, and it hit me that Gandhiji's emphasis, from what he said, on handicrafts, the modern day equivalent of that is the maker lab that we all talk about. We have maker labs here. There's a program to actually require every student in engineering, and I think sciences as well, to get involved in building things. So quite literally, we have come around 360 degrees, as the Chancellor said, recognizing the value of experiential learning. So what lies ahead this afternoon is a reception outside. But as we have done in the past, we also want to share with you what is easy to share in a large setting, some examples of the work that our students have been doing right here on this campus. I know some of you are coming here to UC San Diego, and some of you are on your way to other places. I'm sure you'll have a similarly good experience. But we have some advanced technology facilities, and really the whole point of it is to enable our students to take advantage of it. So right here in this auditorium, as well as the spaces next door, we are featuring some of our most recent pieces, most recent creations that take advantage of the virtual technology, which scales much more readily than building artifacts by hand. Let me mention that many of you have been here before, and it's wonderful to see just like Dr. Verma said, he gets to see Pradeep once a year for the Infosys Award. I see some of you once a year. And you heard about our 4K projector, right? We had it up and running in the year 2006, and nobody knew what 4K was. 8 megapixels, photorealistic. You had to actually experience it from the front row to understand what it is about. Now you can go to Costco and grab a 4K screen and throw it in your shopping cart and bring it home. So we wanted to make sure we would stay ahead, and so we now have an 8K projector. And if you want to hang around, you could get a sense of what 8K content will do. And even more importantly, the two pieces that we will be displaying here is the work of students from our visual arts department who actually created content. Technology in some ways is challenging, but it's the easy part. What does one really do with 4 times the megapixels that you had in 4K, right? And so again, the new element here is also interactivity. We have a center for human imagination, the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination, and Sheldon Brown, the director, was instrumental in creating a team that would actually create something interactive. So I think this perhaps is more directly for the younger ones in the room. It's an app. You can download this on your iPhone. You grab objects from the screen, you modify it and release it. Think of it as catch and release fishing, but with digital objects, and a whole new ecosystem evolves. Now, for those of us who are above the age of 50, you have no idea what that means. But this is a real example of how you can begin to take advantage of the latest technology to experiment and go where we haven't been able to go before. We also have the opportunity to see some of our other creations in the theater next door. Many of you know where that is, and there will be people guiding you. But before we break, I also wanted to pick up on Dr. Madhavan's observations about the role that President Kalam has played. And again, some of you perhaps were here, but back in 2006, we had the good fortune of being able to engage with him. He is known for the many roles he played, including the scientific industrial role and so on and so forth. But he loved connecting with students, especially real young kids. And it was quite an amazing hour-long presentation live from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the presidential residence in India. And we have spliced out of it a short segment of about 7 minutes. I hope you find that useful. We've extracted elements from it that perhaps, if you look back now 10 years from when he actually shared his words with us, perhaps you'll see it in a different light. So we'll now play the clip.
A few months ago, a number of us developed a serious interest in exploring opportunities for Indo-US collaborations. A lot has happened since then, and out of these interactions comes this event, its structure, the people that are here, and what lies ahead. A turning point in these interactions was our opportunity to interact with His Excellency Abdul Kalam, the President of India. Two things stand out. His desire to see how technology can help solve problems of a societal scale, on a societal scale, and his penchant for using high technology to get the message out. I should tell you that this is a demo. We have made many plans, many backup plans, but you are part of an experiment, and keep that in mind as we move forward. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you His Excellency Abdul Kalam, the President of India.
Friends, as I interact with you through the end-to-end optical network of high bandwidth, I see the contribution of University of California, San Diego, and the Indian teams towards the establishment of this interactive knowledge system. I can see you very beautifully well. I would like to share with you an interesting experience that I had this week. A small girl, Anukriti, her name, asked me a question. I am trying to find an answer with all of you today. What is that kid can ask? She asked me, Rashtrapati ji, you can see in my PowerPoint, you are saying prosperous India will come in 2020. Why not by 2010? 7-year-old girl, little Anigridi, asked this president. Now, this happened few days back in my place. How to answer this question? I am saying to my country that before year 2020, India should become economically a developed nation. This kid asked me, you accelerate to 2010. That's the echo of my nation. Now, friends, World Knowledge Platform, when I was during my recent visit to Singapore, Philippines, Republic of Korea, I put forward the concept of World Knowledge Platform, which will integrate the core competencies of partner countries to develop knowledge products. I am sure scientists and researchers from United States of America, particularly from the University of California, San Diego, will be keen to participate in this mission. This platform will enable joint design, development, cost-effective production, and marketing of the knowledge product in various domains based on the core competencies of 2 countries, 3 countries, 4 countries. In conclusion, education and the island of peace. A new situation is emerging globally where generation after generation, the comforts levels of the people has becoming better and better. In the midst of this ever-increasing betterment of lifestyle, there is a lingering uncertainty and insecurity. This fear of, however subtle in each one of us, has the characteristics of a snowballing into insecurities between nations and cultures. Economically developed societies and economically developing societies both are haunted by problems unique to each other. The question is, under these circumstances, how we build a prosperous and peaceful society in the planet Earth. In the knowledge era, economic development is directly controlled by the knowledge development. Any economic divide would be a direct consequence of a knowledge divide. Can education provide a path and hope for smoothing that knowledge divide? When you go up the ladder of prosperity, a never-ending monotonous quest of the mankind, the role of education and universalization is to reduce the knowledge barrier between nations. Are we doing that? In this connection, I remember when I presented to my parliament a few verses. I said, I climbed and climbed. Where is the peak, my Lord? I plowed and plowed. Where is the knowledge treasure, my Lord? I sailed and sailed. Where is the island of peace, my Lord? Can the California University system and the Indian universities of 300 universities work together, set examples of ways and means by which education can help us to reach the peak, locate the knowledge treasure, and to live in the land of peace? My best wishes to the participants of US-India Summit in their mission of broadening areas of engagement to include new research thrust for promoting excellence in education, research, and technology in different parts of the globe. So my best wishes for all of you. God bless you.
Can you see me, Mr. President? This is more of a statement than a question. Typically, I'm cynical of politicians, but after listening to...
I'm happy you are smiling, you know. I'm happy you are smiling.
But I'm a highly technical person. I have a PhD myself, but after listening to your presentation, I'm just blown away. Some of the things you said...
What's your thesis? What's your thesis?
It was on control systems, robust control. But I couldn't find a job with that, so I had to switch fields.
Robust control.
But I just want to say, some of the things you said went over my head.
You do the adaptive control, you get a job.
I'm going to sign up.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I just want to say that some of the things you said went over my head. I'm just happy to have someone like you lead our country than some of the other politicians I've come across. Just a statement. So.